He was humiliated, fired, called a thief, and expelled in front of everyone. But weeks later, he discovered that the poor woman he had helped was, in fact, the owner of everything. And when she revealed her true identity, no one believed her, not even him. Get ready, because this story will move you. Eduardo didn't know that morning would be the first step towards the biggest turning point of his life. He woke up early, as he always did, had black coffee with stale bread, and walked to the Turbo Rapido workshop, where he had worked for 4 years as a mechanic. The salary was low, but it was the sole support for him and his younger brother Mateus, who was still in high school. The workshop was on a busy street in the periphery, and despite its catchy name, the environment was chaotic, poorly managed, and full of problems. The owner, Silveira, was known for being an iron fist, rigid, distrustful, and always looking for faults in his employees. He didn't tolerate mistakes, and even less, kindness. Eduardo, however, was the opposite of his boss, calm, humble, dedicated, and overly honest. He was the type of person who would share his own lunch if he saw someone hungry, a rare quality to some, a weakness to others, especially to Silveira. That day, Eduardo was under a car, adjusting the suspension, when he heard someone knock on the workshop door. It was a timid, hesitant, almost insecure knock. "Hello?" A weak, almost choked female voice called out. Eduardo slid the trolley out from under the car and saw an elderly woman at the gate. She was holding a cloth bag and leaning on a simple cane. Her floral dress was faded with time, and her gray hair tied in a shaky bun swayed in the wind. Her eyes, however, were what caught attention. They were sad, tired, but at the same time deep, as if they held too many stories. "Good morning," Eduardo said, standing up. "Do you need anything, madam?" The elderly woman took a deep breath. "My car, it stopped there on the avenue. I don't know what happened. She hesitated for a few seconds. "I really need to get to the city center today. It's important. I don't have money right now, but..." She lowered her head, embarrassed. Eduardo immediately felt his heart clench. He knew what it was like not to have money. He knew what it was like to depend on others. He knew what it was like to need help and have no one. "Madam, calm down," he said kindly. "We'll figure something out. Where's the car?" "On the corner," she replied, surprised by his kindness. Eduardo looked inside the workshop. Silveira had gone to fetch parts and wouldn't be back until late afternoon. The other 2 mechanics were busy with scheduled customer cars. No one would notice if he was absent for a few minutes. "I'll be right back," Eduardo said, grabbing his toolbox. The elderly woman smiled so sincerely it seemed to light up the room. They walked to the corner. Her car, a very old model, visibly well-maintained but worn by time, was stopped with the hood open. Eduardo examined it and quickly found the problem, a ruptured fuel hose. "I can replace this quickly," he said. "But, madam, you really don't have any money." She slowly opened her purse. Inside were only a few coins and 2 small bills. "I didn't want to deceive anyone," she murmured, distressed. "I really can't pay today, but I can come back another day, I promise. My name is Vera." Eduardo smiled, gently closing her purse. "Dona Vera, don't worry. I'll do this for free. You don't need to pay anything." Her eyes instantly filled with tears. "My son, may God bless your path. I don't know how to thank you." "Just being well is enough," he replied as he began the repair. He worked quickly, using a hose left over from a previous job. In less than 20 minutes, the car was running perfectly. "Test it now," he said. Vera started the car, and the engine purred as if new. The look of relief on her face made Eduardo smile too. "What can I do to thank you?" she insisted, moved. "Nothing," he smiled. "Just take care of yourself and have a great day." She held his hand tightly, with affection, with something Eduardo couldn't explain. "One day, you'll be rewarded for this, believe me." Eduardo didn't understand, but he smiled. He didn't help expecting anything in return. It was just who he was. He returned to the workshop feeling calm until he realized Silvera had arrived earlier than expected. His boss was in the center of the workshop, holding the inventory clipboard with a grim expression. "Who took a new hose from stock?" he asked loudly. Silence spread through the room like poison. Eduardo felt a chill down his spine. "I did," he said, trying to remain calm.
Silvera slowly turned, arching an eyebrow. "And why did you take it without asking?" Eduardo took a deep breath. It was to help an elderly lady whose car had broken down around the corner. She really needed it. "And did you charge her?" Silvera asked, narrowing his eyes. "No," Eduardo replied firmly. Silvera smiled, but it wasn't a good smile. It was the kind of smile that precedes a storm. "You mean you use my stock to do charity?" "I just tried to help someone who—" Silvera interrupted him with a shout. "That's theft, Eduardo!" The other mechanics stopped what they were doing. One of them lowered his head. The other swallowed hard. "Theft?" Eduardo repeated, incredulous. "I didn't. I just helped. She had no way of—" "Theft," Silvera repeated, spitting the words. "You have no authorization to use anything from here for free. Every part costs money. Where do you think you are? At an NGO?" Eduardo still tried to argue. "I can pay for the part, deduct it from my salary." "Oh, but of course I'll deduct it," Silvera growled, "but not just that." Eduardo felt his heart race. Silvera dramatically tore a piece of paper in front of him. "You are fired for just cause." Eduardo felt the ground disappear. "Silvera, please, I have my brother to support. I need the job." "Perhaps you should have thought of that before going around distributing my parts as if they were handouts," the owner yelled. "Grab your things and get out, now!" Eduardo tried to speak, but the words were lost. His colleagues dared not defend him. He walked to the locker, picked up his backpack, his simple tools, some from his father, now deceased, and left in silence. Every step hurt. Silvera yelled after him, "And you can forget about a reference. I'll tell everyone what kind of employee you are." Eduardo froze for an instant, feeling his stomach churn. But he didn't turn back. He didn't cry there. He just walked, carrying the weight of someone who did the right thing and was punished for it. The sun was strong outside, but Eduardo felt he was in a dark abyss. Returning home, he felt his entire life crumble. How would he tell Mateus? How would he pay rent? How would he find another job with an accusation of theft hanging over him? When he got home, his brother was sitting on the sofa, studying. As soon as he saw Eduardo come in with his tools, he noticed something was wrong. "Did something happen?" Mateus asked, getting up. Eduardo tried to smile, but broke down. He finally cried for the first time in a long time. "They fired me," he said, his voice broken. From that moment on, life began to get even harder. The following days were a humiliating pilgrimage through the city's workshops. All asked for references, and all called Silvera, and all closed their doors. Bills began to pile up. Rent was overdue. Food became scarce. Eduardo tried to do odd jobs, but it wasn't enough. With each no, the feeling of failure grew. But the worst was yet to come, and so was the turning point. Exactly 20 days later, when Eduardo had lost all hope, he received a call from an unknown number. When he answered, a firm, polite voice said, "Good afternoon. Is this Eduardo?" "Yes." "This is Marina, assistant to Miss Vera Albuquerque. She would like to speak with you in person tomorrow." "Vera?" Eduardo swallowed hard. "The lady with the car?" "Yes. She asks me to tell you it's important and that you can't even imagine why." Eduardo remained silent. "Could you attend?" Marina asked. "She asked me to say it will be to settle accounts." And it was at that moment that Eduardo felt, for the first time in weeks, something he had forgotten: hope. The city dawned shrouded in a thick fog when Eduardo left home. The streetlights were still on, reflecting on the wet asphalt. The silent streets gave the strange sensation that the entire world was holding its breath before something important happened. And something important was about to happen. Eduardo walked with restrained steps, holding the paper where he had written the address the assistant had given him. His hands were sweating. His heart pounded like a misfiring engine, each beat echoing in his chest with too much force. He tried to breathe deeply, but anxiety wouldn't let him. The world seemed blurred, as if reality was about to change focus. The address led him to a neighborhood he rarely visited, an upscale area with houses so large they seemed to hide secrets behind their high walls. Enormous trees lined the street, and the breeze carried a soft perfume of expensive flowers, so different from the smell of grease and hot iron he was accustomed to. When he spotted the correct number, he stopped. He stopped because it was impossible to comprehend. Before him, a colossal mansion emerged as if it had been taken from a movie. Wrought iron gates, impeccably trimmed gardens, imported statues, and a facade that seemed to glow under the pale morning light. Eduardo blinked 3 times. Had he written down the wrong number? Had he gone to the wrong place? He checked the paper. Then he checked the street sign. Then he looked at the mansion again. It was there. A strange sensation, a mix of fear and fascination, ran down his spine. He approached slowly and touched the intercom. A short hiss, a mechanical click, and then a female voice sounded, clear and professional. "Mr. Eduardo, Mrs. Vera is waiting." The gate opened slowly, creaking as if announcing entry to another world. Eduardo walked through the garden, the sound of his footsteps muffled by the soft grass. As he entered through the enormous carved wooden door, he noticed wooden sculptures, signed paintings, glass display cases with rare works. The air inside the mansion was fresh, smelling of lavender and polished floors. Everything shined. And in the center of it all, there she was, Vera. But not the Vera in a simple dress, with a cloth bag and a tired expression. Now she sat in a velvet armchair, wearing elegant clothes, discreet jewelry, her hair perfectly styled. There was no fragility, there was no hesitation. Her posture was firm, her expression serene, yet powerful. She seemed like another person. She smiled when she saw him enter, but there was something in her eyes, something deep, calculated, almost majestic. "Eduardo," she said, as if she had known him for years, "thank you for coming." He couldn't respond. He stood still, caught between disbelief and astonishment. He tried to say, "Do you live here?" Vera laughed softly, a calm, rich laugh from someone accustomed to luxurious environments. "Yes, this is my home." Eduardo swallowed hard, trying to piece together a puzzle that still made no sense. Before he could ask anything, the door opened again, and Marina, the assistant, entered. She held a black folder in her hands, walking firmly, almost militarily. "Here are the documents, madam," she said, handing them to Vera. The elderly woman calmly opened the folder, taking out a series of papers, contracts, copies, and receipts. She organized everything with the care of someone who knows exactly what she is about to do. Eduardo didn't know where this was going. "Sit down, my dear," she said, indicating a huge sofa. He obeyed, trying to control his breathing. Vera took a deep breath and began to speak with a voice that didn't belong to an ordinary elderly woman, but to a woman who had commanded companies and destinies. "Eduardo." "Yes," he replied, almost automatically. "I asked you to come here because your life changed the day you helped me, and you can't even imagine how much." He felt his stomach sink. Vera stood up, leaning on her cane, but even so, she exuded authority. She walked to the coffee table and placed the documents there. "There's a lot you don't know about me," she said, looking at him with honesty. "And I think it's time you found out." Eduardo remained silent. Vera continued. I am Vera Albuquerque, president and founder of Group Albuquerque. I own 4 construction companies, 2 logistics companies, 1 technology company, and 8 auto repair shops scattered across the city. Eduardo froze. Absolute disbelief took hold of him, as if he were hearing something impossible. The same brain that knew how to repair any engine seemed unable to process that information. She smiled. The expression on your face is the same one many people make when they see me outside my role as a businesswoman. I know I look fragile, but don't be mistaken. I've been in this world for a long time. Eduardo opened his mouth, but found no words. And why, he swallowed hard, why were you in that old car then? Her eyes sparkled, as if this was the question she had been expecting. Because I was testing people, and you were the only one who passed the test. He felt his heart lurch. Test? He repeated, confused. Yes, Eduardo, she said. For 2 months, I personally went to workshops in the city, pretending to need help. I wore simple clothes, drove an old car, and put myself in uncomfortable situations. I wanted to see how mechanics would treat someone fragile, without money, without commercial value. Eduardo immediately remembered the scene, the hose, the desperate look of the elderly woman, the broken car, and the phrase, "One day you will understand." Now it made sense. Vera continued, I was rejected, humiliated, and even driven away from some workshops. Most would only help me if I paid up front. Others claimed to be too busy, and some were rude enough to tell me I shouldn't even be driving. But you, she took a deep breath. You dropped your work, risked your job, used a new part, and still refused the only money I had in my purse. You treated me with respect, dignity, and kindness.
Something you can't buy. Eduardo felt the weight of the words hit him like hammers in his chest. And because of that, she said, I decided you deserve much more than what you lost that day. She sat down again, opening her briefcase. Eduardo, I investigated your history, your life, your job attempts, the injustice you suffered. I know about your brother. I know about the difficulties. I know you were sabotaged by your former boss. Eduardo took a deep breath, trying not to let his voice falter. So you called me here to help me? No, my son, she said, leaning forward. I called you here to make you an offer that will completely change the course of your life. She pushed a contract towards him. Eduardo looked. His eyes could hardly believe what they were seeing. I want you to be the new general manager of the largest workshop in my group. He widened his eyes. But I'm just a normal mechanic. Just, Vera laughed. No, you are the kind of person I want leading my employees. Someone honest, someone who knows how to do the right thing even when it costs a lot. Eduardo took a deep breath, his vision beginning to blur. Your own office, your own team, a high fixed salary, quarterly bonus, health insurance, aid for your brother's studies, and she pulled out another envelope. An immediate advance to pay off your debts. Eduardo put his hand to his mouth. His eyes burned. He began to cry. He cried like someone who had carried the weight of the world his entire life. Vera approached and placed a hand on his shoulder. You're not here because you felt sorry for me. You're here because you've proved to be a rare person, and I always reward rare people. Eduardo took a deep breath, sobbing. I accept. Vera smiled. Great, because we're just at the beginning. The contract still trembled in Eduardo's hands when he left the mansion for the first time. The cold wind hit his face, but the sensation was different, as if he was breathing again after weeks of drowning. Each step out of that gate seemed to lift him a centimeter from rock bottom, giving him back something he thought he had lost forever, hope. He walked through the silent streets of the upscale neighborhood as if floating.
The folded paper in his pocket burned his skin, a symbol of change, of rebirth. The future, which once seemed like a dark, dead-end road, now shone like headlights advancing in the pre-dawn. The bus to his house never seemed so slow. Eduardo stared out the window, trying to understand if he was dreaming. When he put his hand in his pocket and felt the contract there, he was sure it was real. When he arrived at the humble neighborhood where he lived, the contrast between the noble streets and the broken sidewalks almost brought a smile to his face. That cramped, poor place, full of noises, it was where he had fought for every penny. It was where he had gone to bed hungry so his brother could eat. It was where he had cried every night in recent weeks. But now it was just the chapter before the turning point. He slowly opened the door to his house. "Mateus," he called. His brother came out of the room looking worried. "You took a long time. Is everything okay?" Eduardo took a deep breath, his eyes filled with tears. He didn't say anything. He just took out the envelope and placed it on the table. Mateus approached cautiously. He slowly opened it. His eyes widened. "This is money? Dude, where did you... This is a lot." Eduardo smiled, tears streaming down his face. "I got a job, but it's not just any job, Matt. It's a high position, very high." Mateus stood motionless, the envelope still open in his hand, as if the money might fly away. "But what do you mean? What happened?" Eduardo took a deep breath and told him everything, every detail. He told him about Vera, about the test, about the mansion, about the unbelievable offer. Mateus listened open-mouthed, his eyes shining with pride. When he finished, Eduardo waited for his reaction. His brother clenched his fists and smiled with tears in his eyes. "You deserve it, bro. You always deserved it. You just needed someone to see it." Eduardo hugged his brother tightly, a hug that carried months of pain, sleepless nights, fear of failing. But there, in that moment, the fear gave way to something new, the certainty that everything was changing. And the change started fast. The headquarters of Auto Prime Alpha, the largest workshop in Vera's network, was something Eduardo had never seen in his life. It was more like a technology center than a workshop. New hydraulic lifts, electronic scanners, state-of-the-art tools, a fleet of cars constantly coming and going. It was so big it seemed to breathe. The previous manager, who was retiring, greeted him with a warm smile. "So you're the famous Eduardo. Miss Vera spoke very highly of you." Famous, the term gave him a pang of anxiety. He had never been famous for anything in his life. He just wanted to work. But now, he was responsible for an entire team. Responsible for important decisions. Responsible for proving that Vera had not been mistaken. The mechanics watched him with curiosity when he entered. Some smiled. Others silently assessed him. It was a competitive environment, and now he was at the top. The previous manager handed over the keys, literally and symbolically. "This place is yours now." Eduardo felt the weight of the key in his palm, as if it were a trophy, but also a giant responsibility. He walked to the glass-enclosed room that was now his office. Inside, he found an immaculate desk, a new computer, organized folders, huge windows overlooking the courtyard. He pulled the chair back, sat down slowly. Never in his life had he sat in such a comfortable chair. He had never been in a place where his name mattered. He had never imagined that one day he would be a manager of something so big. He ran his hand over the desktop and smiled to himself. "Thank you, Miss Vera," he murmured. Eduardo immersed himself in work as if his life depended on it. He learned everything about the workshop's flow, introduced improvements, reorganized teams, trained newcomers, implemented ideas. He worked hard, smiled with pride, went home exhausted but happy. And what once seemed impossible was now his routine. Mateus enrolled in the pre-university course thanks to financial support. food was never lacking, the bills were paid. The feeling of suffocation disappeared, replaced by a sense of lightness. Eduardo had become what he always deserved to be, someone important, someone respected, someone the world finally saw. But every great achievement brings something with it, an echo from the past. And that echo was about to knock on the door of his new life, forcefully. It was late afternoon when Eduardo's phone vibrated. He looked at the screen. Vera Albuquerque. His heart raced. He answered immediately. "Miss Vera, is everything all right?" Her voice seemed different, not weak, but serious, deep. "Eduardo, I need you to come with me tomorrow morning. There's something I need to resolve, something that involves you and someone from your past." Eduardo straightened in his chair. "Who?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Silvera." The name hit him in the chest like a punch. Eduardo gripped the phone tighter. What about him?" Vera took a deep breath. "He's in heavy debt, lawsuits, suppliers wanting to seize assets, and we discovered something serious. I need you there, not just as my manager, but as a witness to what he did." Eduardo felt his throat go dry. His mind flashed back to everything Silvera had done. Humiliation, threat, lies, slander, hunger, despair. And now, fate was bringing the two of them face to face again. "I'll go," Eduardo replied firmly. "Excellent," Vera said, "because tomorrow we will close a chapter." The next morning dawned gray, heavy, as if the sky foresaw what was about to happen. Eduardo arrived at the old workshop where he used to work, but it seemed completely different, not in appearance, but in energy. It was quieter, emptier, almost dead. Silvera was inside, arguing with two men in suits. When he saw Vera enter, he paled, and when he saw Eduardo right behind her, he froze. His eyes trembled, his hands too. It was as if he was seeing a ghost, the ghost of his mistakes. "What are you doing here?" he blurted out, but his voice failed. Vera walked towards him with firm steps, her cane hitting the ground like a judge's gavel. "Silvera, you and I have a lot to talk about." The men in suits revealed the documents, lawsuits, debts, foreclosures. Silvera looked around, desperate. This is unfair. My business, my workshop, it's always been my livelihood." Vera raised her voice for the first time. "Your business was built at the cost of exploiting employees, of humiliation, of lies." She turned to Eduardo. "Tell him." Eduardo took a deep breath. His voice came out firm. "You destroyed me, spread lies, said I was a thief, took away my livelihood." Silvera took a step back, trembling. I just did what I thought was right." "No," Eduardo interrupted him. "You did what was convenient." Silvera put his hands to his face. He cried, a broken man, crushed by the weight of his own actions. But Vera wasn't finished. "There's a possibility," she said, opening a folder, "a chance for you to start over." Silvera raised his head, eyes red. I accept, whatever it is." Vera held out an envelope. "It's a contract for you to work as a mechanic in one of my smaller workshops. Simple salary, strict rules, constant supervision, mandatory humility." Silvera swallowed hard. A common mechanic?" Eduardo completed, calmly. "It's what you should have been from the start." Silvera closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and signed. There, at that second, the cycle closed, and a new one began.
When he signed that contract in front of Eduardo and Vera, Silvera looked like a man crushed by fate. His slumped shoulders betrayed the weight of years of arrogance exacting its toll. The once haughty gaze was now merely that of someone defeated, or perhaps finally humble. But Eduardo felt no pleasure in it. Nothing within him resonated with the fall of the man who had destroyed him. What he felt was relief. The dark chapter was over. Vera placed a hand on Eduardo's shoulder as they left the workshop. "We've closed the loop," she said, her voice serene. "Now you are free to build everything you deserve." Eduardo took a deep breath, as if filling his lungs for the first time in months. "Thank you, Dona Vera," he replied. "Without you, I would never have succeeded." She smiled, but there was something different about that smile. A hidden weariness, a silent premonition. Eduardo didn't notice, not yet. But life was about to place him before something much greater than Silvera. Auto Prime Alpha was living its best days. Customers coming in non-stop, positive reviews on social media, workers more motivated than ever. Eduardo walked through the workshop like a proud commander. The sound of hydraulic lifts, tools, engines, it all formed a symphony he had learned to love. His name was respected, his leadership was admired, his effort recognized. Roberto and Julio, his former colleagues, were integrated into the team months later. The two became Eduardo's right-hand men, bringing years of experience and a bond of loyalty that strengthened after everything they had been through. Mateus, meanwhile, was preparing for the college entrance exam. Eduardo made a point of reviewing exercises with him every night, even when tired, even when exhausted. It was his way of reciprocating the affection and trust of his brother, who supported him when the whole world seemed to want to bring him down. Life finally seemed peaceful, good, fair. But great stories never stay peaceful for long. It was a Friday, late afternoon, when Eduardo's phone rang. "Vera Albuquerque," he answered immediately, smiling. "Dona Vera, it's good to talk to you. How are you?" But something was wrong. Her voice, normally firm, now sounded weak, trembling, distant. "Eduardo, can you come here, please?" He felt a chill down his spine. "What happened? Are you okay?" Silence. Then the answer, low, almost a whisper. "I don't think so." His heart pounded. "I'm coming now." Eduardo dropped everything, told his team he needed to leave, and drove as if the world were about to collapse. Vera's mansion never seemed so silent when he arrived. Marina greeted him at the door, pale. "She's in her room. The doctors just arrived." Eduardo froze for a second. "Doctors?" Marina nodded, swallowing hard. "She's unwell." Vera's room was large, comfortable, illuminated by huge windows that let the sunset stream in like an orange veil. But at that moment, none of it seemed beautiful. Vera lay on the bed, breathing with difficulty. She looked smaller, fragile, different from the powerful woman who walked through the mansion like a queen. When she saw Eduardo, she smiled, a weak but genuine smile. "I knew you would come." Eduardo approached, holding her hand. "What's happening to you?" She took a deep breath with effort. "I'm tired, my son, very tired. Age caught up with me before I realized it, and now my body is paying the price." He felt his eyes burn. "You should have told me. I could have helped." "You already helped," she replied with affection, "more than you imagine. But I called you here because I need to tell you something before it's too late." Eduardo sat beside her, holding her fragile hand firmly. "I left documents ready with Marina," she said. "My will, my final instructions. You will be responsible for everything I built, for everything." It was as if the ground disappeared beneath his feet. "Me? But I'm nobody. I have no education. I don't know how to run companies." She squeezed his hand, surprisingly strong. "Eduardo, it's not a diploma that defines a leader. It's character. And you have plenty of that." Tears began to fall from his eyes. "I can't lose you." "You won't lose me," she said with a faint smile. "As long as you continue helping people as you helped me, I will always be here."
She touched his chest. "Inside you." Eduardo wept, unable to hold back. Vera slowly closed her eyes, still smiling. "Take care of my family, my employees, my dreams." She took a deep breath, but this time she didn't release the air with force. It was soft, silent, eternal. Eduardo felt her hand become light, as if the strength had gone. He knew Vera was gone. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions Eduardo never thought he would experience.
Vera's will surprised the entire board, all the distant family, all the local press. The Albuquerque group, giant, influential, valuable, would now be managed by a collective, but with one name as the main leader, Eduardo Pereira da Silva. The young mechanic who lost everything, the humiliated worker, the man who helped an elderly woman without asking for anything in return. Now, he was the executive president of the workshops, responsible for hundreds of employees, the central pillar of the legacy of one of the city's greatest businesswomen. The news went viral. Everyone wanted to know the story. Everyone wanted to hear his version. And he told, always emotional, how an act of kindness changed his life, how Vera saved him, how he loved her like a mother, how she transformed his existence. And he promised something in front of the cameras. "I will honor her every decision." Months later, Eduardo decided to do something Vera would have approved of. He visited Silvera. His former boss was humbly working in another workshop in the network, wearing a simple uniform, hands dirty with grease, but now silent, respectful. He looked older, more tired, transformed. When he saw Eduardo, he stood still. "Did you come here to humiliate me?" Silvera asked, his voice low. "No," Eduardo replied. "I came to tell you that you're doing well. Your supervisors talk about you. They say you're punctual, that you work in silence, that you've learned to listen." Silvera took a deep breath. I needed that, to realize the man I had become." Eduardo nodded. "Then continue. That's how a new life begins." Silvera swallowed hard. He looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you for not turning your back. After everything." Eduardo placed a hand on his shoulder. "Everyone deserves a second chance. I had mine." And he left, with a light heart. Eduardo prepared everything with care. The stage, the speeches, the tribute. It was the first official annual event of the Albuquerque group under his command. The audience was full. Employees, partners, friends, family. Even the press came. In the center of the stage, a large painting covered by a black veil awaited the right moment. When the auditorium fell silent, Eduardo went on stage. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "I shouldn't be here today. I'm not rich. I'm not educated. I don't come from a powerful family. But I am living proof that a simple choice can change everything." He paused, looking at the audience. "I lost my job. I lost my dignity. I was humiliated. We went hungry at home. And everything changed the day I decided to help someone without expecting anything in return." He held back tears. That person was Vera, and she saved my life. The audience was silent, moved. Eduardo pulled the veil, and the painting was revealed. An enormous portrait of Vera smiling, and below, the phrase, "Doing good always pays off." People gave a standing ovation. Eduardo raised the microphone again. "This painting will remain at the company entrance to remind everyone that no matter how small the gesture, it can change someone's world." When the event ended, Eduardo was greeted by dozens of people, but Vera's image seemed to watch him from the painting proudly. One late afternoon, Eduardo was driving home in his new car, simple but comfortable.
The road was calm, the sky orange. From a distance, he spotted a car stopped on the shoulder. A young man tried to start the engine in vain. A small child crying in the back seat. Eduardo pulled over immediately. He got out of the car. "Everything okay there, friend?" The man was distraught. "Man, I'm trying to get to the hospital. My daughter has a high fever, and the damn car won't start. I don't have a penny to pay for a tow truck." Eduardo smiled and immediately recognized that moment. A reflection of the past, an echo of Vera, a calling. "Leave it to me," he said, opening the hood. "You don't need to pay. We'll just get you back on your way." The man couldn't believe it. "Seriously? You would do that for a stranger?" Eduardo smiled, remembering Vera's words. "An act of kindness can change everything." "Of course I would." And there, on that road, with the sun setting and the engine coming back to life, the cycle began again. Eduardo looked at the horizon. He knew Vera would be proud. If this story touched you, if you believe that kindness can still change the world, if you think honest people deserve second chances, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment, "I believe in kindness," so that this message reaches more people. Stories like this only exist because you help spread them. Thanks for watching. And remember, doing good always comes back. Always.